I'll be talking about Percys today. This is an awesome template by my employer. They also made this lovely onesie. I'm going to be talking about Percys. First of all, congratulations to Percys. They have been accepted into the CNCF at the sandbox level, which now means that it's officially part of the CNCF. Short bit about me. I'm Erwin de Keijzer. I'm with Fullstack. I'm a DevOps engineer and a CNCF landscaper. And immediately a big thank you to Fullstack for allowing me to stand here and fueling my obsession with presenting in a onesie. This is the only time I will use this template because it takes forever for every slide. But so what is Percys anyway? If you go to their GitHub page, they have this as their goals, which is way too long. They basically want to become the standard dashboard visualization tool for Prometheus. They want to replace Grafana. They want to be GitOps compatible, so it's easy to deploy everything within Percys in a GitOps way. This is a bit of a weird goal. Provide different NPM packages, which means that their process, their work in visualization is open sourced and can be easily adapted in other projects. So it might come to the point that even Prometheus will use the visualizations from Percys. Kubernetes native, which is very interesting. If you think about how you deploy everything around observability, you usually deploy it into Kubernetes and then you add service monitors. And how nice would it be if you can also deploy your dashboards in the same way? They have adapted the same data model as Kubernetes. What they call a project relates to the Kubernetes namespace, and everything around that is modeled in the same way. It allows for static validation of dashboard format. So if you have a CI/CD pipeline that deploys dashboards, you can have static validation in that before you deploy it. So you can do a CLI validate and then you know that it's valid. And it supports plugins. But I have to be clear, these are the goals. They are not all achieved, or some are like have 2 or 3 man hours of progress. It's not done yet. We'll immediately start with a live demo. But this was planned. Okay, what is wrong with this? Light mode. I wanted to get some customer audience engagement, and I'll try to blow it up. Doesn't work. I'll make it bigger. Is this also good? Now we can actually see. I can also see something. I have a Docker Compose file here, which basically starts Prometheus and Percys. I add Prometheus to also have a data source, and I will do a Docker Compose up. You get a very nice ASCII art, and then here we see the Percys interface. It also has a light mode. Wow, it's even worse when you have a beamer in your face. Don't use the dark mode. I will just do some ClickOps. We're going to add a project. I call the project ClickOps as well. And here you see variables, data sources, and secrets. These are project specific. And in the admin interface, you also have global variables, global data sources, and global secrets. They are again modeled in the Kubernetes way, which allows you to separate the secrets that are used to connect to your data sources from the actual data source, which is also very nice if you deploy it in Kubernetes and have some way of getting secrets in there. I will do this on the project level. I will add a data source because I just started a Prometheus as well. I'll set it as default, and we want to proxy the access because the container will have to access Prometheus. You cannot do it from the interface because my host doesn't understand what Prometheus is. And we save it. And you can create a dashboard here. And this interface might be quite familiar if you have ever worked with Grafana. There's like a time interval at the top right, refresh, auto refresh, and you can also download the actual dashboard that he created in a JSON format. Well, first, so this is a similar experience. Again, you just get a list of all the metrics that are available, and it will instantly refresh the data, retrieve it whenever you're updating it. And this is a chart, so to say. One thing to note is that none of these changes are saved until you click save. This has bitten me quite a few times already. For now, I'll save it. And if you click here, you can see the JSON of the dashboard. I will get back into the GitOps nature of this later again. If we go back in edit mode, so the types of charts visualizations that are available, it's quite limited for now, but in most use cases, it gets the job done. And I will go back to the slides. I won't go back to the slides. PowerPoint disappeared. Okay. Then I think the thing that makes it more interesting is the CLI tool. It's like kubectl. If you ever used kubectl, it's very familiar. It's like Berkeley get, Berkeley describe, Berkeley apply. So kubectl for Percys should have been called per-cutl or per-control, whatever you want to call it. Berkeley is a bit easier to pronounce though. I call it Berkeley. I'm not sure if it should be per CLI or Berkeley, but for now we'll do Berkeley. And there's another demo, of course. So I have this Git repository. It has some files. We'll go into the Percys files directory. And if we do a build of this is how you define a project within the CLI. Again, it's a very similar format to everything you're used to in Kubernetes. So this is a project, this is a data source, and this is a dashboard, which is already a bit longer. If you take a look at I named them, so they are applied in order, because if you apply a dashboard before the project is made, then it doesn't work. And we can just do Berkeley apply this directory. Now all of this is created. If you go back to the interface, you will now see there's a Percys 2024 project with the dashboards that I just created. And these are using a data source that's actually hosted back at home in the Netherlands, connected through Tailscale. And you can also see, so this data source was created, and this one is accessed by my browser itself. And as you can see, you can also define variables, and they are automatically loaded with the value from Prometheus. You have gauge charts, you have like simple stat charts, and show the variable that was created. So it uses a label name and a series selector to filter all the labels. And if we make some changes here, I think this one is important. This one doesn't really matter. And this one, really, IP version, who cares? If we now save, this is a new dashboard. And now we can go on the command line again. And then do Berkeley. Let's first do now we can list all the dashboards that were created. It's fantastic. And then we do describe, which one was it? Black box, Percys 2024. Wasn't that the name? A dash. Now, if I get it, I just get a YAML out of it. And if I put it in the same file, we can do a diff. And if you've ever used Grafana, these kinds of diffs are probably very familiar to you, because by changing some things, you get a very big diff. For now, I'll apply this. But for like smaller changes, if I just resize this and I put it here again, you can see this is a very simple diff that's actually understandable. So the width has changed, that's it, and the version has changed. If you make changes like this, you actually get readable diffs. And it's YAML. Everyone should probably be annoyed by that, by now, because everything is YAML. I already did it. I just pasted some files here, so when I hand the slides in, so people actually know what was going on. So how does it stack up against Grafana? There was actually someone from Grafana here, so I think I misordered my slides. Okay. The customizations that are possible with Percys are, as of now, very limited, to say the least. So you have 10 options, but not enough right now. I think the dashboards do look better by default. Grafana has the annoying default of having a background underneath your lines by default in your chart. I just think it looks ugly. The style it's debatable, but I think it looks better. It's up to you. Ease of use, because Percys is quite limited, it's also easier to use. If you want to use all Grafana options, you almost have to become a Grafana certified engineer. I think the GitOps ability is better. By default, the CLI tool works pretty well. It works similarly to the kubectl, so it's easy to adapt to because you're used to it. I think the future looks quite bright for Percys, and I will also get back into that later. Yeah, and I see what I'm going to talk about already. Another thing that Percys they want to inspire you to do dashboards as code. And as of now, there's 2 options for that. You can use Q or the Go SDK. For those of you who are not familiar with Q, it stands for Configure, Unify, Execute. I think they came up with that after they came up with the name. It's like Python and YAML and TOML and Go went into bed together and came up with a static markup language. It's similar to all 3 of them, of all 4 of them, but it's YAML, but you can also do for loops and conditions, and it makes it a lot easier to loop over things, for example. And in the case of Percys, the schema of Q is generated from the Go types in the Percys project, so they're always aligned. And I also have a small demo for that. So here's a dashboard.q file. So at the top, imports. If you have ever written or seen Go code, this looks very familiar. I'm not sure if the builder style of imports is specific to Q or the Percys project. For me, it reminds me a bit too much of Java code. So it doesn't look really pretty. And below here, you see the actual Q file that is created to generate a dashboard. And with the Q CLI, you can export the Q as a YAML. And this YAML can again be applied by the Berkeley. I haven't adapted this one to actually work, but this is the general idea for working with it. There is a Berkeley dashboard as code subcommand. And I'll do it in a temp directory. If you do Berkeley doc setup, you first have to make a q.plot. And if you do this one, it will set up everything. It should set up everything to actually work with these Q files. Unfortunately, there's a issue where it creates directories without execute bit, and then it wants to place files in there, and that doesn't work. So I got it to work by running this command about 40 times by setting the permissions correctly, running it again to see what folder was created. But I wanted to show you that it actually works. So that's how you do it for now. And that's the Q SDK. There's also a Go SDK. So there's a main.go here, which also, this is a way to create an actual dashboard, but then from within Go. And I think this version is a bit easier to read also because it's trying to do less, but also because I'm familiar with Go. But so this is everything you need to actually create a dashboard. And there's I'm not sure what the command was, but if you just run the project, you YAML as output. So if in your Go file you have any print statements, this will break because it should output valid YAML. But we can do a Berkeley apply, and now a new dashboard was created, the Go SDK example. And this is a chart with the seconds that are remaining until the certificate expires, which of course looks like it's not moving at all because it takes a long time for certificates to expire. But this is how you do it in Go. I'm talking a bit faster than in my attempts at home, so we'll have more time for questions or food. Gotchas. So the dashboards and panels, they don't save unless you click save. For example, I was doing this a lot and then refreshing the page and it's just gone. You don't get a warning, nothing's happening, but you will lose progress this way. The names in the interface don't necessarily match the names in the CLI. So if you create a project in the CLI with spaces, special characters, they get replaced by underscores, but it's not in a transparent way. So you first have to list your resources on the command line to find out what the name has become. A lot of units are missing in the charts. I will show you in the settings. You can select the unit, but it's very, I think, like computer science focused right now. So you have time, person, bytes, and throughput. But I also have a dashboard that monitor my power usage. So stuff like SI units, watts, kilowatts, kilowatt hours, they're not present. Volumetric SI units are not available. So if you do anything other than computer science with it, you're out of luck. And it's also not possible to just add them on the fly. It's not for a chart, you cannot say, hey, this is kilowatts, but you're just stuck with what is available. And in this case, I settled on just using the decibel unit, as they call it, but then it's unitless, and it's not ideal if you have charts that are not just about computer science stuff. The entire Kubernetes integration is still missing. They have a project online, that's the Kubernetes operator, and in the future, this could do great things. For example, allow you to create dashboards by creating CRDs in your Kubernetes cluster, but it's not working yet. There's also the Percys Helm chart, which does work to deploy just Percys, but that's it. They also have a thing called the ephemeral dashboard, which sounds like a great idea if you're using it in your CI, because it allows you to create a temporary dashboard that, for example, could be created with a pull request. You just create a temporary dashboard with the dashboard that you want to merge, and it will automatically get cleaned up. But when I tried to make it work, I couldn't. So it was a weird experience. The docs are quite limited. I think that's being generous because there's almost no docs. And as I just mentioned, the Berkeley doc setup fails on macOS. I think the biggest selling point is like dashboards as code. But if you try to do it on a Mac with their guide, it doesn't work. That's about it. Are there any questions?
Anyone? 2 questions.
Is it just a Prometheus backend?
I think it is as of now. Let me actually check. And I create a data source. Oh, they can also do tempo.
Yeah, so it's not
for traces, but
it's not going to be Prometheus long term.
The idea is, I think it's primarily Prometheus, not time series databases in general, but I'm not sure about that. I'm not affiliated with Percys in any way, just a happy talker, basically.
There was one more.
Okay. I think that dashboard as code sounds like a really cool idea, but your example you showed looked like a lot of work to write that code out. And I assume that if you have written the code out and you make a manual change in the web interface, you lose the ability to work with dashboard as code because your code is not reflected your change.
Yeah, I think that's a very valid point. I think the dashboards are still hard to see what will happen with your changes in code itself. The dev cycle of creating a dashboard is complicated. There's no live reloading or anything. You could set it up yourself, of course, but I think that's also a question of discipline and restricting access.
Yeah, but at some point it becomes easier to do it in the dashboard and then commit it to Git via some way.
Yeah, of course, but once you factor in if you have
loops and
multiple environments that have slightly different metric names and maybe the same site that's configured in several ways, then you can start using loops and it becomes a lot easier. But I think for the foreseeable future that ClickOps is the way to go for creating dashboards.
Okay, thanks.
One last question.
In the back.
Okay.
I actually got two questions.
Shock.
Is there a migration path from Grafana? The hard part of this would be translating all the existing dashboards we have. Is there anything that can help with that?
Yeah, they actually have a Berkeley migrate command.
Oh, amazing.
So if you export your dashboard in Grafana, it should be able to translate it to what Percys is doing, but the options of Percys are quite limited compared, so I'm not sure how that will actually work in practice.
That's cool. We've been doing dashboards as code for years, and it's a really great paradigm, but we've had to hack the hell out of, we're using JSONNet and GrafanaNet to do Grafana as code. Do you think the Grafana team are seeing this project and going to build these things in native? Because we've been looking for these things for years.
Well, there's someone from Grafana here, so I'm sure some of it will trickle into their ecosystem as well.
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Erwin.